John Sinclair McEachern was born in Stayner, Ontario in 1873 and graduated from the University of Toronto with a gold medal in medicine in 1897. He established a surgical practice in Calgary in 1905. But it soon became apparent that his abilities suited him for a larger role than that of small-town doctor alone.
He wasn't a dominant, authoritarian kind of a person. He was very quiet. I don't remember him being a robust, hearty kind of center of attention, look at me kind of guy, I'm in charge here, and throwing orders around at all.
He had a remarkable insight for two things: what was going to happen, and two, what to do about it. And way ahead of his colleagues, and what's, I suppose, more important is he could very simply articulate that vision.
One of those visions dealt with the role the Canadian Medical Association could and should play in Canadian society. But first, the CMA had to be saved.
In 1921, a motion was put at the annual meeting to disband the whole thing. It was falling apart, it was dead, and they said, let's get rid of it. And McEachern stood up and said, give me a chance to think about this just tonight, and I'll see what I can do. I'd like to. This can't happen. This can't happen, and I'm going to do something about it.
The end result was that he went to bed, having got the motion tabled, and with a requirement to present the recovery plan the following morning. And he did. He went to bed as a committee one with power to add, and he woke up the next morning and he presented got people to listen and willing to listen, set aside the tabling motion, and he presented the Bingham report, motion line by line. He got every section of it approved, and by the time the meeting was over, he not only had laid out his plan, he had the executive guaranteeing the future of the CMAJ, and 48 of the physicians who attended had put up $100 guarantees. And that's viewed as the turning point in the CMA from a social club to the makings of a national organization.
It was clear to Dr. McEachern that if the Canadian Medical Association were going to become a real voice for physicians, it had to become a truly national organization. As was usually the case, McEachern's arguments prevailed. By 1938, the federation of the CMA was complete. In the meantime, he turned his attention to another problem.
Cancer was a very major problem, and it was, seemed to be out of control. It was interpreted to be out of control in that time. And the Canadian Medical Association was very concerned about getting this under control. And so the whole focus of the medical profession, or the well-informed people on the medical profession, was to get people to them earlier through public education, and then to treat them better when they did come.
In 1935, to honor the King's Silver Jubilee, a national cancer fund had been established, a fund that quickly raised over $500,000. McEachern had already been championing the creation of a Canadian Society for the Control of Cancer that would fund both education and research. In the Jubilee Fund, he saw the chance to serve Canadian medicine once again.
The Canadian Medical Association initially suggested that the King George V trustees start the Cancer Society. And they said, no way, no way. But they kind of sneakily said, however, we feel that if the Canadian Medical Association will take this on, we want to support it and we'll give you the money. And he had no mandate to accept this offer on behalf of the Canadian Medical Association, but he went way out on a limb, and he knew that he knew he was right, and he never gave up when he knew he was right. And he accepted this on behalf of the Canadian Medical Association, really without any authorization, and then he worked like a dog to make sure that the Canadian Medical Association accepted it. They did. He was made the chairman of the interim committee. He was made the president of the society. And it was no easy job to start a national organization during wartime. People had other priorities, but he made it work.
John Sinclair McEachern retired from practice in 1942 and died 5 years later at the age of 74. But his legacy to Canada and Canadian medicine only continues to grow.
He saved the Canadian Medical Association because he was the man who put the Canadian Cancer Society, which then created the National Cancer Institute of Canada, and these things all depended on him. That's an enormous contribution to this country, and it wasn't easy.
He was a man at the beginning of our country, the genesis of the country forming as it still was, in getting a lot of the policies and practices and issues begun and resolved that we still live by, that still affect us on a daily basis today.